Hey y'all, today I wanted to show you how to find and forage for a waterproof tinder out in the woods. If you're in a situation where you really need to get a fire going and maybe the conditions aren't great, like it's raining or it's really humid, or maybe you don't have your normal tinder with you, or the only tinder you can find is a little bit damp, this will give you the edge you need to get that fire started. I will say you do need to be in an area with pine trees. So here in the South, we call this stuff fatwood, and it comes from pine trees. I've also heard it called lighter knot, but I think to be lighter knot, technically the tree has to have been hit by lightning. So there's actually 4 places to find fatwood. One of them is down in the base of the trunk of a pine tree. Okay, so this pine tree fell over quite a while ago. All of the bark is off of it. That doesn't mean that it's too far gone to find fatwood. So we're gonna go down there to the stump where the tree broke and see if we can find some. Okay, so when I look down in this stump, so this is not what we're looking for. This is kind of rotten wood. But this stuff right here is really hard and it's full of sap. And I can turn the camera and y'all can see in here, see that kind of pink looking stuff? That's heartwood, and that's also gonna be full of sap. So this stuff that's still really hard, I would need, you know, an axe or a knife or something to break it. But this is what it looks like. Not quite as much sap as I normally would like, but this would definitely work. So that's one good place to find it. Let me show you a couple others. So another place to find fatwood is in dead branches. So if you can find a dead pine tree branch that you can reach, if you cut that branch off close to the trunk, ideally in the branch collar, that spot where you cut is gonna be solid fatwood. Okay, so here's another way to find fatwood. So what you're looking for are big pieces of pine that have rotten. So they look like this. They've got these kind of like nubs sticking out. So there's one piece. Here's another piece right here. See that big chunk sticking out? And then last but not least, there's another piece right here. So down in here, this is where the branch came out. And down in here, the sap and the wood, the sap is impregnated in the wood and has solidified. So if I break this chunk off and carve into it, I'm gonna find some fatwood. And last but not least, my favorite place to find fatwood is in freshly fallen pine trees. And the great thing about that is that if they've fallen pretty recently, they've split apart and they haven't started rotting yet. And so I can find really good fatwood in all those breaks in the tree. Now, I do have to make sure that the tree didn't fall too recently, because then it's still gonna be sticky. So what you're looking for is you're looking for wood that's totally saturated with sap, but when I rub my finger on it, it's dry to the touch, it's not sticky. So here's an example of what you're looking for. So this is a really small chunk of fatwood, and I wanted to show y'all on a different camera that would focus in on it. So you can kind of tell this wood is a bit translucent. If I hold it up to the sun, see if it'll focus on that. It won't, but you can tell it's a little bit translucent because it's full of sap. And it's not sticky at all. So when I rub my, oh, sorry, this is not focusing. When I rub my fingers on it, I get a little bit of kind of dust on them, but it's definitely not sticky. So this is a piece of fatwood that's totally full of sap and nice and dry. A really easy place to spot is gonna be a big fallen pine tree like this. And if the base is broken like this one, that's really great, because I can actually stick my hand in there and pull out that lighter knot fatwood from the center. Otherwise, you might have to go further up the tree and find branches along there, smaller branches that broke and then died, and usually on the underside of them is where all that sap is gonna collect. As I'm walking along here, I just spotted this piece of tulip poplar. This is one of my favorite things to use as tinder. The inner bark is like paper almost, and I can just peel the bark off in long strips and then process it to get the inner bark out. So we'll take some of this with us. So these pieces right here where these branches connected, there's some sap right in here, and I can carve away at this. I'll show you that in just a second. So what I'm doing right now is I'm cutting away all the dried out wood to get down to where that dried sap is. And there'll be an obvious change in the color when I get to it. Okay, so let me turn this up a little bit. So if you look at this, along here, right in there, I don't know if you can see, that's where the solidified sap is, right there. And so this is nice and dry in here, and it doesn't matter, even if it's wet, that solidified sap is gonna burn. So all I'm gonna do is start shaving this. Try not to cut myself, there we go. So these pieces that I've just shaved off, this is really great tinder. So this stuff is really, really fine. It's almost like paper thin, and it's impregnated with sap. So I've made a little pile of these Fatwood shavings. And so you could spend a lot of time on this, and you could have your entire tinder bundle could be made of just Fatwood. And I would do that if all of my kindling was pretty wet and I needed a lot of heat and a pretty big flame in order to get my kindling to catch fire, right? In this instance, I mean, most of the time you're gonna use some kind of other material in addition as your tinder. In this forest, there's some cedar. I love cedar. And my favorite actually is this tulip poplar right here. So this stuff's kind of magical. This is the bark that I pulled off of a branch earlier, and I'm just gonna run my hand down it like this, and it makes this like papery stuff. And it's not too wet out here. I'm not really, if the ground was wet, I would be much more careful about where I put my tinder, but it's not too wet. It's a little damp. I have a lot of confidence in this Fatwood, so we're gonna be not so careful in processing this. And plus I have a lot of it, so. The other cool thing about this stuff is that it's really, really fast and easy to process. I can get a good little tinder bundle in just a minute or a couple of minutes. Again, you know, the thing is, if you really, really, really need this fire to work, like you only have one match, for example, or everything is really wet, then you need to spend way more time than I'm spending on processing this tinder so that you'll be successful. I can cheat because this stuff's really dry and I know I'm gonna use that Fatwood. It's gonna go up pretty easily. Ooh, I'm getting all this all over me. So, I've left this probably too thick for a flint and steel, but we're gonna see what happens. All right, so what I want y'all to see is the difference between a tinder bundle that has this in it and a tinder bundle that doesn't. So we're gonna try to make these about the same size so that y'all can see the difference. So there's one. It's kind of small, but it'll do. Can y'all see that? Yeah. So it did rain 3 days ago. So the ground here is pretty wet. I've moved all the leaves away so that I don't catch anything on fire. I do have a water bottle right next to me. We are definitely practicing some fire safety and awareness. I would not do this right in the middle of, you know, I wouldn't do this right here without digging down and making a little pit if we were in high winds or if it was really dry, but it's pretty wet and it's not windy, so we're good. So I am not a huge proponent of taking a flint and steel as your emergency fire starter. That is a bad move. It's really hard to get a fire going in adverse conditions with just a flint and steel. You should absolutely carry some matches in a waterproof bag. It's also a good idea to carry some good tinder, like some Vaseline and cotton balls is a good option. But honestly, I think this is actually better than Vaseline and cotton balls. I mean, it doesn't make my hands dirty. It's natural, and I can use this. This could make a bunch of fires for me, which is why it's with my kit. And I'll show you in a minute how to use this to get a fire going and then keep using it over and over and over again. So let's do this little experiment and see which one of these gives me a bigger flame and lasts longer. So I'm gonna take my little pile of my Fatwood and put it inside this Tinder bundle. And that's probably like less than a tablespoon. It's probably a teaspoon's worth. I don't know if y'all can see that. It's about a teaspoon worth of Fatwood. So for this we are gonna use a flint and steel. Mine, I actually really like it. Oh, there's an owl just went by. That was cool. So all flint and steels are not created equal. This one's really awesome. I've used some that kind of suck. So I typically find one that I really like and just keep buying it. The first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna light the little guy without anything in it, and we're gonna see how big of a flame we get and how long it lasts. Can y'all see that? Yeah, okay. Okay, there it goes. Let's see how big that is. That's pretty big. But it didn't last, the height didn't last very long, right? I still got a flame there, still going. It's starting to calm down though, starting to die out. Might be able to give it some air. There it goes. Get it a little more flame. And now it's basically just ash, okay? So, you know, that for sure would help you get a fire started if things were pretty dry. So now let's look and see what happens with this one. I have to be a little more careful when I get this lit because I don't want to, you know, knock it over. All right, so already you can see that that flame is quite a bit bigger and quite a bit stronger. I've got a much stronger flame and much bigger flame. You can't see it from your perspective, but a lot of that Fatwood, look how strong that is. That's a nice big fat flame. There's for perspective on height. And it's still going, still nice and strong. So, you know, if your kindling is a little wet or a little bit bigger than you would like, you know, this can make the difference. This amount of heat that this is putting off can make the difference between success and failure. It's still going, man, it's still going. Look at that. And that took me, how long did that take me? Like 2 minutes, 3 minutes? It's still going. It's like a candle. It's like actually literally like a candle. Oh, I'll show y'all. Okay, now, oh, I still have a little bit of flame. And it's basically done. So we're done. Okay. That was a good little comparison. So the cool thing about Fatwood is it is basically like a candle. So the way a candle works, it has a wick, and the wick is flammable, right? Usually the wick is made of cotton. And then you've got the wax. The wax is also flammable, but it burns at a different rate, and it slows down how quickly that cotton burns, and it makes that cotton have a bigger, stronger flame. That's basically what the sap does when it solidifies and what's the word I want to use? Like combines with the wood. So this piece of Fatwood right here, or this chunk that I broke off of that mostly rotted piece, either one of these I can use to help me light some tinder and then pull it back out and use it again. So to do that, I'm gonna take my knife and I'm just gonna cut off, I'm not gonna cut them off, I'm gonna leave them intact, but I'm gonna kind of make some slivers like that. See that? I don't know if y'all can, that does not help. Is that better? There you go. So you could do that to this entire piece and make it catch flame really easily and burn really well. The reason I'm doing that is because with my flint and steel, I'm not gonna be able to take a little tiny spark and get it to light this. I need something with more surface area to catch. So I can take my flint and steel. Y'all can't see below me, can you? Okay, so I've got a little Tinder bundle. This one's not great, but it's okay, it doesn't need to be. It's not processed enough. Okay, let me show you. Okay, so I'm gonna take my flint and steel. This is a little bit more challenging because I've gotta aim pretty well, and I've gotta get one of these sparks to land. On this Fatwood. Let's turn it this way. There it goes. So now that's lit. See, it's like a candle, so I can move this around like that. It burns kind of smoky. And so then I can hold it under my tinder. And then, you know, if I really am desperate, I could chuck part or all of this in. But I want to use it to start another fire. I can blow it out, maybe. There it goes, smother it. And now I can use this to start another fire. So this is really useful. I like to do this when this tinder is a little damp and I'm pretty sure I've got a lot of it. I'm pretty confident I can get it to light, but I can't get it to light with a flint and steel. I also use it a lot when I'm teaching kids because sometimes they have a hard time getting enough big sparks to catch this, but a lot of times their sparks are enough to catch this, and then with little hands they can just hold that into their tinder bundle and then blow it out. Okay, so now for the last thing that I wanted to show y'all. So I put some of this Fatwood into my water bottle a while ago. I'm gonna pour this out and pull the Fatwood out of it, and we're gonna see how well it lights since it's been soaking. It's probably been soaking for a couple of hours. I'm gonna do this. Maybe I should do this on camera so you believe me. Y'all believe me? I just don't want this water, it's gonna come right at me. Yeah, see? I knew it would. I'll pour it over here. Can y'all see that? You can't see that either. Okay, I'm gonna move my butt. I'll turn the camera so you can see. We're gonna pour it into this rotten log. That'll absorb all that water. It won't get on me. Okay. So y'all believe me. Hear it? There it is in there. So that's been soaking for a little while, and we'll see what it does. I'm not sure, actually, if it'll light with the flint and steel. We're gonna see. I might have to use a lighter or a match. Okay, so there's what I've done so far. Can y'all see that right there? Let's turn the camera. Yeah, okay. There it goes. Oh, I put it out. hang on. I turned it wrong and it went out. There it goes. Oh, the water put it out. There we go. So it took a couple more tries, but there it is. It's lit. And that, man, that's been soaking in water. So that would be enough. That'd be enough to get your fire lit. You know, if you needed a Tinder bundle, you could make a whole Tinder bundle out of this. And if you know, here's the thing. If it's not actively raining, or I can get shelter out of the rain, I can carve this stuff up and it's gonna dry out. So if I shave off all these little pieces, they're so fine and so small that they're gonna dry really quickly. And this is, you know, this is the same thing this is the same thing you do if you've got all wet wood, right? You shave it until you get to the dry stuff on the inside. The cool thing about this is that the dry stuff on the inside is super flammable. So that can give me that edge that I need. Go ahead and light this little, you wanna light this little pile and see what happens? Is it gonna go? Oh, y'all can't really see that. There you go. So there's my little Tinder bundle. This is only Fatwood / light or not. And this is a bigger chunk right here that I sacrificed to the experiment. And so, you know, that's gonna burn for like a while. So that's a piece that's been soaking. That's been soaking in water for like 2 hours. In a water bottle. It's still going. Look at that. So see how long this is lasting? If you needed to get bigger pieces of wood on fire, this is gonna be your go-to. The only downside is a little smoky. I don't know if y'all can see how black the smoke is, but it's got, I guess because it's got so much sap in it, it's got tons of soot. So if you were to cook on something that's got pine in it, and you know, you're gonna have tons of soot on your cookware. I have a little steel pot that's covered in black soot. I don't know how long that was, but that feels like a really long while for just, you know, like a teeny tiny little pile. Imagine how much, it's still going, but I'll tell you when it goes out. Imagine how many fires you could start with this, right? Like this piece and 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 this piece, right? And there's 3 of these laying here. So you saw what kind of fire I could start with these tiny little pieces, right? So if you find a big chunk and you really need to get a fire going, make yourself a nice, huge Tinder bundle with Fatwood, and you're gonna get that fire started. So I certainly hope that you don't find yourself in a situation in the wild where you desperately need a fire, especially if it's raining or it's really humid. But I do hope that this was helpful, and if you ever do find yourself in that situation, I hope this will save your butt. As always, thanks for watching. If you found this video helpful or entertaining, please hit the like button and subscribe for more.